I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. I recorded a full episode yesterday to talk Club World Cup and the final. And I finished the whole thing, and I was like, I just know that Chelsea are going to sell somebody. And by somebody, I mean Noni Madueke. Tomorrow, I'm not going to put this out. I'm going to wait. And it happened. So today's number is 52 million because that's the number of Great British pounds that Chelsea got to move Noni Madueke to Arsenal. Now, this deal, I've been like pretty clear that I'm negative on this. And I will get out of the way. Again, this is where we left off last time. There are legitimate reasons to want to move on from Noni Madueke. He has a pretty terrible injury history. He's been playing senior football for 6 seasons. He has only played 70 90s. That's a legitimate thing to be worried about. That, like, hey, he's played more than 12 League 90s one time ever last season. It's also fair to look at the fact that across 2 managers, he has been dropped for application or motivation or training or whatever issues 2 times. More than twice, but by 2 managers. It is fair to look at that and say, that's not great. However, you look at Anthony Elanga moves for £55 million. Mohamed Kudus moves for £55 million. Morgan Gibbs-White moves for £60 million. Chelsea moved for Jamie Bino-Gittins for £50 million. And you just look at all those guys, and none of them are as good as Noni. They're not even that particularly close. And, Chelsea have whatever PSR or UEFA FFP stuff that's going on. And, maybe you look at it and you're like, hey, they need to think about selling. And I can buy that until you get to the point that Noni was on a long, very long, cost-controlled contract till 2030 with a club option. So you really had 6 years left on his deal if you wanted to, on comparatively very low wages, comparatively very low amortization. And you moved that guy to get Gittins, who costs more, will make more. To get João Pedro, who costs more, will make more. And to maybe get another winger who will cost more and make more. And how many of those guys are really that much better than Noni is? And again, maybe you look at it and you're like, Estaval's coming in. He came in a little bit hotter than we were expecting. This is a chance for us to rebalance our winger portfolio. We can't move Pedro Neto. It's a good chance to move it. But again, you come back to the cost issue. Why is it Gittins for £50 million? That's insane. If you approached this deal and said, £52 million, that's a great deal. We can move him now. Everybody's happy. The deal is easy to do. And we're going to go buy another Noni. £52 million is like 60 million euros. You've doubled your money effectively. That's great. That's awesome. I think the fee is still really, not really low, but it's low. My number was 60 to 65 million pounds. That's probably where I was. So, you've left money on the table, I think, for sure. But it's a fine outcome. This is the point of player trading. You double your money in 2.5 years. Great. But then you need to go get another guy at this price. Not at the price you just sold this guy for. That doesn't really make sense to me. So, I don't know. And you look through and, whatever, there's all the stuff, technical decision, and, his output is not amazing in the time at Chelsea. It's 13 goals and 5 assists in, 38 90s, which is, you look at that and you're like, oh, that's not great. And then you think about actually 13 goals, 5 assists for a Premier League season worth of 90s is pretty incredible for a 21 to 23-year-old in a what was not very good Chelsea team for much of that time period. And, we'll see what the breakdown of add-ons versus this and that and whatever is. One of the things that I saw was Chelsea feel that Noni has not progressed enough in 2.5 years. And if that's the case, the point I will make to you is this. Noni Madueke joins in January, having spent most of the season injured in Holland, and puts up very poor underlying numbers. He comes back the next season, improves a lot, I think, significantly better defensively, significantly better without the ball, and doubles his output to be like a slightly below average league winger. Struggles with some injuries, struggles with staying on the field, but doubles the output. He then comes back, doubles his minutes, and doubles the underlying output. He tripled his XG, his non-penalty expected goals. He went from 0.14 to 0.43. I don't know if that is the case, what amount of improvement is quote-unquote enough. Because here's a bunch of other players. Here's Mihailo Mudryk. And now Mudryk's banned. He can't move. Whatever. Mudryk's been here 3 seasons. Has his metrics improved? He got a little bit better the first season. I was excited to see where he was going to be by the end of this season. We didn't see it because he gets banned. That's not enough progress. I'm going to be looking at Pedro Neto and be like, all right, Pedro Neto, you had worse metrics than Noni Madueke in 23-24. Are you going to go from 0.4 to 0.6? Because if you're not a 0.6 guy, it's not enough. Every winger, 0.6 is not enough. The number of wingers that can put up that level of output is very limited. Noni Madueke's 0.43 non-penalty expected goals per 90 was second in the Premier League amongst wingers, behind Mohamed Salah. It's ahead of Saka. It's ahead of Luis Diaz. I think actually Luis Diaz was ahead because he played a bunch of striker. But it's ahead of any winger you can name. It's ahead of Doku. It's ahead of all the City guys. It's ahead of all the Arsenal guys. It's ahead of all the United guys. Ahead of all the Spurs guys. Like everybody. Except for Salah. I don't know, man. Like, I think this is a pretty early time to sell. And you've not gotten adequate payout for eating that he might blow up. Right? Like, you have not gotten the appropriate amount of money to cover the fact that, like, Madueke last season put up 10 XG and 4 assists in 23 90s. You have not gotten paid appropriately for the possibility that he puts up 15 XG in 30 90s next year. You just haven't. And because if he does that and then he finishes hot and he scores 20 goals, you look so dumb. You have not taken appropriate pay for eating the upside. And I just look at it and it's like, it's just not smart. Now, you may say, Kieran, but Nani's going to Arsenal. He's not going to start ahead of Saka. How's he going to play there? Blah, 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 blah. And, like, that's totally true. Right? Like, Mason Mount going to United has been pretty bad at United. He's been mostly unavailable, and he's not played that well or that much. And I was against the sale of Mason Mount. I thought that was a bad deal. I also did say Chelsea have his medicals. They're going to know his injuries better than everybody. They might know, like, actually he's crocked. Which turns out he's crocked. I don't think Noni Madueke is crocked. And I do see how good he is. And I do look at that and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that one. So that's the deal. It's $52 million. I will say one thing, again, to play devil's advocate to myself. I will say one thing I have heard is that he was more or less looking at his contract structure of 6 years remaining at a fairly low number and being like, these guys are making what compared to me? And that was part of it. And that's totally fair. And that is always going to be the thing that you run into with these contracts is like, actually, if you don't bump guys up over time, they're going to want to move. And that's okay. So do I think it's the end of the world? No. Do I think it's suboptimal transfery? Yes, much like many of the other deals Chelsea do. There's very few F's There's very few Fs, but I just don't think they're smart. I don't think they're optimal. I don't think it's optimal resource allocation. So we'll see what happens. Chelsea beat Fluminense. They play PSG in the final. I suspect Noni will not be in the squad given this, which now means you're another winger light. Does that mean Terry George sees time? I don't know. Does it mean João Pedro plays the winger? I don't know. There's swirling rumors about Nico Jackson. I don't know. Let's see. But the outbounds appear to be moving. That's good. Ishe Samuel Smith is moving to Strasbourg on a permanent deal for £8 million. That's double what Chelsea paid Everton a few years ago. They cannot bank that profit for FFP because they are a related party transaction, though there was some intimation today that they are no longer a related party based on governance changes. I suspect UEFA would tell Chelsea to promptly go F themselves in relation to that, and there is no way that that would pass the sniff test. And nor does his like £4 million profit particularly matter. But I do think actually they did a similar thing with Amugu, that Amugu has moved to Strasbourg for some number. We actually don't have a number. I assume it's going to be exactly the number that Chelsea paid for him. One of the things that I do think is pretty smart is that these guys are moving. Chelsea are buying them. They are then moving to Strasbourg with buybacks. And really, in the first place, Strasbourg should have bought them. But I think moving them to Strasbourg with buybacks is it's a very common thing that Real Madrid did in the 2010s. They did it with Dani Carvajal. They did it with a few other guys. Nico Paz at Como right now. Morata to Juventus. They did it with a few guys where like you sell them for a somewhat below market rate fee, you get a buyback that is also below market rate, and then you move them. So I don't know. I don't know what happens on that one. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. As I have recorded this, Reece James has put up the Instagram story about carrying bricks again, which is pretty funny. So I guess we'll see. I like the Strasbourg shenanigans. Sounds like Mike Penders is going to go there on loan. Also like that. You have 2 remaining loan spots to figure out. My guess is it will probably be Kendry Pais will be one of them. And then the third one is anyone's guess, whether that's Sarr goes back or any other number of players. We'll see. But anyways, that's all for me. I will be streaming Sunday before the final. We will see what other crazy things happen before then. But as always, enjoy the soccer.